In the quiet town of Hollow Ridge, nestled in a valley where the earth hummed with secrets, the ground began to tremble. It started as a faint vibration, barely noticeable beneath the chatter of daily life. Old miners, sipping coffee at the diner, dismissed it as the mountain settling. But by nightfall, the tremors grew into quakes, and the earth split open like a wound. From those jagged fissures crawled the echoes, creatures born in the lightless depths of the world. They were monstrous, their bodies a grotesque fusion of sinew and stone, with no eyes to speak of, just smooth, glistening carapaces where faces should have been. Instead of sight, they pulsed with an eerie radar, or rhythmic thrum that echoed through the air, mapping their surroundings in waves of sound. Each pulse painted the world in their minds, sharper than any human eye could manage. The echoes emerged hungry. They didn't hunt by sight or scent but by the vibrations of life itself, heartbeats, footsteps, even the faint hum of breath. Hollow Ridge's residents, unaware, became prey in their own homes. The creatures moved silently, their clawed limbs skittering across pavement and wood, guided by the echoes of their radar. A child's cry, a dog's bark, the creak of a floorboard, all were beacons to the echoes. Sarah, a geologist who'd come to study the valley's unusual seismic activity, was the first to notice something beyond the quakes. Her equipment picked up strange, rhythmic pulses, like sonar but alien, emanating from the fissures. She'd been working late in her makeshift lab when the first attack came. An echo tore through her cabin's wall, its radar locking onto a racing pulse. She survived by pure luck, diving under a steel table as the creature's claws slashed blindly, guided only by the echoes of her movement. Sarah pieced it together. The echo couldn't see, but their radar was flawless, detecting even the slightest motion. She remembered an old miner's tale about the silent deep, a warning to stay still in the tunnels when the earth hummed. The creatures were drawn to vibration, and Hollow Ridge was a cacophony of life. She rallied the survivors, fewer than 20, huddled in the town's library. They wrapped their shoes in cloth to muffle steps and spoke in whispers, knowing sound was death. Sarah devised a plan. They'd use the echo's radar against them. She rigged her seismic equipment to emit erratic pulses, mimicking the chaos of a crowd. The survivors set the device in the town square, powered by a generator, and waited in silence. As night fell, the echoes swarmed the square, drawn to the machine's vibrations. Their radar pulses clashed, confusing them, and they turned on each other, claws rending stone like flesh in a frenzy. Sarah's group slipped away, moving as one silent unit toward the mountain's edge, where the fissures were widest. But the echoes weren't mindless. One, larger than the rest, its carapace cracked and oozing, seemed to learn. It ignored the machine's pulses and tracked the faint tremors of the fleeing group. Sarah felt its radar sweep over her, a pressure in her chest, and knew they'd been found. In a desperate bid, she grabbed a flare gun from her pack and fired it into a nearby fissure. The explosion's shockwave disrupted the creature's radar, sending it thrashing blindly into the chasm. The survivors reached the valley's rim as dawn broke. Below, the echoes retreated into the earth, their radar pulses fading as the fissures sealed behind them. Hollow Ridge was gone, swallowed by the quakes, but Lila and the others lived. They carried the silence of that night forever, knowing the echoes still lurked below, waiting for the earth to hum again. About a month later, the echoes came out again, not as many, but still there was a crack in the earth somewhere. We don't know how many people are left, all we know is that we haven't seen anyone for quite a while. The silence wasn't a gift, it was a cage. For years, my family and I had lived in its iron grip, our movements measured, our breaths held. The world was no longer ours. It belonged to the echoes, to the creatures that hunted by sound. They were blind, but their hearing was a terrifying, all-encompassing radar. A dropped utensil, a cough, a whisper, any of these was a death sentence. Our home, a small farmhouse nestled deep within a forest, was a fortress of silent living. The floorboards were marked with chalk where we knew they wouldn't creak. Our doors were insulated with thick blankets and quilts, muffling any errant slam. Communication was a silent ballet of hand signals. A pointed finger for danger, a flattened hand for stay still, a gentle tap on the shoulder for I love you. My daughter, Lily, was a master of this silent world. She was 6, but her eyes held the wisdom of a seasoned survivor. One night, a sudden thunderstorm ripped through the sky. A clap of thunder, louder than any I'd ever heard, rattled the windows. Lily, startled, let out a small, terrified sob. It was a sound no louder than a mouse's squeak, but in our world, it was a gunshot. I saw it in my wife's eyes, the same cold dread that gripped me. The porch light, a beacon we only used in the direst emergencies, flickered on, casting a harsh glow on the rain-slicked porch. The creature was there. It was a monstrous thing, all sinew and bone, its head a grotesque parody of a sound-sensitive antenna array. It was a perfect, predatory machine. My wife, Sarah, moved with a silent, desperate speed. She grabbed a handful of pebbles from a small bucket we kept by the door and scattered them on the porch. The creatures, drawn to the sound, scurried away, their spidery limbs scraping on the wooden planks. The diversion worked. The next day, we found one of the pebbles had rolled into a corner of the porch. A small, almost imperceptible noise. The creature, a different one, was still there, its head twitching, listening. Its presence was a silent threat, a countdown to our end. We were trapped. We had to move. Now for the safety, we have moved into the basement of our home. The gas lamp flickered violently, its flame jerking like a trapped insect struggling against death. Each twitch cast warped shadows across the bunker's crumbling concrete walls, shadows that didn't stay still, but stretched and twisted as though they were alive. Hi everyone, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and bell button. It's free and you'll be notified of each new video. And it really helps. Sarah pulled Lily close to her chest, arms trembling with strain. The child's face was pale, damp with tears, her small hands clutching at her mother's sleeve. The scratching in the far corner had stopped. The silence it left behind was worse, thicker, heavier, pressing in from every side. Lily looked up, her lips moving in silence before her fingers shaped the words, "Mama, what was that?" Sarah shook her head, her throat dry, her mind clawing at explanations. A rat? No. Rats didn't click. They didn't stop the air itself from moving. And Mark wasn't here to answer anymore. A sudden wave of nausea rose in her chest at the thought of him, her husband, torn away 2 nights ago through that damned loose floorboard. She had heard his muffled cry, the dragging sound, then silence. His absence lingered like a phantom in the stale air, as though the walls themselves remembered him. Sarah tightened her grip on Lily. "We wait," she signed slowly, hands trembling. "We stay quiet." But the lamp betrayed them. It sputtered, the flame choking, dimming. She considered snuffing it entirely to save the last of the fuel, but darkness in this place was worse than death. Darkness invited it. Whatever it was. Then came the sound. Not scratching this time. Not dragging. Click. Click, click, click. A deliberate rhythm, heavier than insects, slower than dripping water. It was moving. Sarah's eyes darted to the reinforced door. Mark had built it himself, swearing nothing could break through, but the sound wasn't coming from the door. It was inside. She swallowed hard, trying not to breathe too loudly. Lily whimpered softly, pressing her face into Sarah's chest. Sarah kissed her hair, though her own heartbeat was a frantic drum. Her gaze shifted to the bunk beds. To the floorboard. The same floorboard where Mark had vanished. The memory sliced into her, his hand clawing up, reaching for her, the way his mouth moved in soundless terror as something beneath pulled him away. His wedding band had clinked against the concrete once, then gone. But beneath that memory came another, his discovery, years ago, of the hidden shaft behind the curtain. An escape, he had said, if things went wrong. If. And now if had come. Sarah's mind spun, forming a desperate, reckless plan. A distraction, loud enough to draw the creature away. Then she and Lily could slip through the shaft, just as Mark had instructed. But the distraction would cost them. Noise was death. Noise was everything. Lily's small fingers tapped Sarah's arm, pointing toward the old metal toy car, a remnant of safer days. Sarah nodded grimly. That would do. She helped Lily climb, inch by agonizing inch, onto the top bunk. The child's hands trembled as she balanced the toy at the edge. The clicking grew louder, closer. It was pacing now, circling, each step measured. Sarah could feel it watching, even without eyes. The hair on her neck rose, and a sour stench filled the air, as though the shadows themselves exhaled rot. The lamp dimmed further, barely glowing. In that faint, orange haze, Sarah finally saw it. A shadow longer than it should be. Thin, impossibly thin limbs, ending in points that scraped against the floor. And its head, twisted, flower-like, peeling open to reveal rows of jagged teeth glinting in the weak light. Sarah froze, every muscle in her body screaming to move but paralyzed by primal terror. Mark had faced it. And Mark had lost. She signed quickly to Lily, "Wait. On my signal." Her hand moved toward the curtain, toward the shaft hidden behind it. But before she touched it, the clicking stopped. The thing stood before the bunks now, towering, its flower head twitching, its teeth gnashing silently as if tasting the air. The lamp guttered once, twice, casting a last, dying flare across its withered flesh. Sarah locked eyes with Lily and gave the nod. The toy car dropped. It hit the floor with a sharp, metallic clang. The sound was deafening in the bunker's suffocating quiet. The thing shrieked. Not just a scream, but a guttural, bone-rattling wail that reverberated through the walls. The force of it knocked the weak flame dead, plunging everything into darkness. Sarah ripped back the curtain, fingers clawing at the hidden vent. The metal screeched in protest as she forced it open, another noise, too loud, too dangerous. But she had no choice. "Go, Lily, go," she signed frantically, shoving her daughter into the shaft. Behind her, something slammed against the bunks. Wood splintered. Metal groaned. And then, in the dark, Sarah heard it, another sound. A man's voice. Sarah. Her heart stopped. She knew that voice. She had heard it 1,000 times before. "Mark." "No," Sarah whispered before she could stop herself. "Sarah," the voice called again, closer now. A low moan, ragged, wet. "Help me." She turned, just for an instant. In the dim spill of moonlight filtering through the shaft, she saw a shape dragging itself from the ruined floorboard. It was him. Or something that wore his skin. His face was pale, jaw slack, but his eyes, God, his eyes were empty pits, black and endless. His hands clawed the ground, fingernails cracked, as he reached for her. "Don't leave me," the thing croaked, its lips peeling
Don't
back in a
leave me.
grotesque mimic of her husband's smile. Sarah screamed without sound, her voice locked in her throat. The creature with the flowered head shrieked in answer, the walls trembling. Lily's small hand reached from the shaft, desperate, pulling at her mother's sleeve. Sarah tore her gaze from the thing that had been Mark. She shoved herself into the vent, her body scraping against the cold, suffocating metal. Behind her, claws raked against steel. Fingers brushed her ankle. Teeth snapped inches from her shoe. She climbed. Up, up, every muscle burning, every breath ragged. Lily was just ahead, scrambling with the strength of fear. The echoes of the monster's shrieks followed them, along with the sick, broken moans of the man she had once loved. After what felt like hours, they emerged, gasping, into the night air. The stars stretched wide above them, cold and merciless. But Sarah did not feel relief, because she could still hear him. Mark's voice, carried on the night wind, soft and pleading.
Sarah, come
Sarah.
back.
Sarah, come back. She clutched Lily against her chest, eyes wide, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. The bunker loomed in the distance, its black mouth still open. And from within came the unearthly duet, the clicking of the creature, and the voice of her husband, calling, calling, calling. They had escaped. But not from him. And not from it. But for now, they're safe.
Thanks for watching. If there is anything you would like to see, leave it in the comments. I'll see you next time.
I can't wait.